Hey, I am a Revision Geek and I want you to come and join my Revision Geek world. Welcome to the Diaries of a Revision Geek. I cannot wait for you to watch these interviews. They are so super fun. I've got qualified accountants together talking about their revision journeys, the highs, the lows, the struggles, and all the things in between about how other people got their plaque up on the wall and how they got qualified. I've picked qualified accountants in my LinkedIn network on purpose to help and support you guys, to inspire and motivate you if you are on your accounting journey. Feel free to like and subscribe below for more. Just click on the icons and I will keep you up to date with the Diaries of a Revision Geek. Let's get started. On today's Diaries of a Revision Geek, we have Lydia. Great to have you, Lydia. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this one too. I say that every week, but I'm so excited. But I don't know anything about Lydia's journey, but I connected with her on LinkedIn, and she has come and given us an interview today. So I'm very excited, like I said. But I don't know anything about you, Lydia, so please feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Lydia. I am the Managing Director of Booksmart Accounting, an accountancy practice that I set up back in January 2021. I'm an AAT licensed accountant, a member of the AAT, and I studied a little bit later in life than most people.
And what qualification are you qualified in?
So I'm fully qualified in AAT. I've done all the levels of AAT accountancy. I have also taken some of the ACCA exams, but I didn't complete that qualification.
Ah, it's interesting. We'll come into that. I'll ask you some questions on that for sure. But for your AAT journey, I'd love to know, like I say to you, everybody listening, like I don't know people's revision journey. This is the first time I've heard it like you have as well. So I'm excited about knowing a little bit more and asking you some fun questions around your journey. So talk us through your AAT revision journey.
So for me, I worked in accounts from about the age of 2021. I fell into it completely by accident. I worked in industry roles and just climbed up the ladder gradually through experience and having, good mentors, good teachers as I went. And it wasn't until the end of 2015 when I had a difficult personal circumstance that led me to realise that I'd kind of neglected myself a little bit. I'd been having my children and I'd put myself on the back burner. So I thought, I'm going to take all these years of experience that I got and I'm going to make sure that I've got the piece of paper to back that up, to say that I know it all and that I'm capable of doing it. So I made the decision then to go and do my AAT exams. So I did all of level 3 and all of level 4 within about a 17 month period. So yeah, whilst having children at home and working as well.
Well done, that is great. That is so good. Is there any reason why you didn't, or was there no need to do an AAT level 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think just because of the background I had, my A levels and the experience that I had in the jobs that had brought me to that point, that they were quite happy for me to start straight on the level 3.
Great. Is it so talk me through why you chose AAT. What was that choice for you?
For me, it was about it was a well-known qualification, something that was recognized. I knew that people would immediately kind of respect the qualification, understand what it meant about me and my capabilities. And as well, I had to self-fund, or I suppose I could have looked for other options, but where I was in my life journey at that point of having a family and having a job, it was something that I was choosing to do for myself. And obviously from an affordability point of view, that qualification worked for me as well. So there was a lot of different reasons, but yeah, it was an obvious choice at the time.
Talk me through your self-funding, if you don't mind. So what did that look like for you? Did you use tuition providers or did you self-study as well as self-fund?
Yeah, so I used Kaplan. I've never really, I know a lot of people say they need the classroom learning, particularly with accountancy. It's something I hear a lot, but I've never kind of been bothered about that. As long as I've got somebody that I can ask questions to, then I'm more than happy with the distance learning. And obviously with having children and a lot of commitments at home, it actually made it easier for me to access the study. I think it's great for people that can't necessarily get out for a few hours every week to go to college. So yeah, and I had actually, one of my friends from school, funnily enough, worked for Kaplan. So it was on my radar. So I didn't shop around, maybe I should have. But I went straight to Kaplan and I found it fantastic. I thought the study materials, the quality of the teaching, everything about it was great. And obviously it worked for me because I did my exams very, very quickly and I passed all of them.
Oh, and then did you pass first time?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Congratulations. I'll talk about that as well. So, yeah. I mean, without assuming anything about you, I would have said you must have self-studied to be able to have done AAT in that length of time, or that short length of time, right? So what did your self-study journey look like?
Yeah, so what I did was I sat 2 units at a time through Kaplan. So rather than having 2 lessons a week, I would have 4 lessons a week, and they were all in the evenings. So it was pretty hard going. I would have to kind of get in from work, sit straight down at the laptop and be there for the next 3.5 hours. And then around that, I had to fit in, obviously, there was always homework, there was work to do around it as well. So I did find it tough, but for me, I'm quite a driven person. I'm quite ambitious. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And in a way, I thought, well, I might as well just do it as painfully, but as short as possible rather than dragging it on. So yeah, it's for me just about being self-disciplined and knowing what you want from it. I think quite often with adult learners, when you're going into studying, you know, I can't even think how old I was in 2015, 30. Yeah, 30. So I was coming into my 30s. I knew that was the career that I already kind of wanted to be in. There was no doubt in my mind. So I've got enough of a drive, therefore, to work hard and do it. And I think quite often you hear that with older learners, is that they know exactly what they want. So they're willing to put in the work. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I was thinking you must be a determined lady, or you had a mission, or the motivation is just super high. What kept you motivated for that length of time on a daily basis?
I think knowing that it would lead me to kind of better jobs, or the jobs that I'd got to a point where I was finance manager, and then my next step would potentially be financial controller. But when you looked at those jobs, they all wanted minimum of qualifications. And so I knew that I'd got to a point where I was limiting myself and my personal growth. So I suppose that was my motivation, was once this is done, I'm going to have the piece of paper and the letters after my name that show everybody that what I already know I'm fully capable of. So that was a big driver. And also I think a lot of what I do, I want my children to be proud of me. I always want them to look back and think like, wow, she was being a mum to us, but she was also doing all of this other stuff at the same time. So that's always a big motivator.
And on a daily basis, did you remember your why, or did you have to have some self-talk or anything, any tactics that worked on a daily basis for you to be like, you know, 8 o'clock for the 3rd day in a row that you're still there learning?
I think I'm such a routine driven person that it's just, there's no option for me. That's what I do every day at that time. I sit down and I get on with it. And I'm a bit the same, like I've done the Great North Run and a couple of other half marathons, and I'm the same in the lead up to that. Like I don't really get a lot of pleasure out of it, but it's just, that is the focus, that's where we've got to be by that date. So here's the plan of how we get there, and let's just stick to the plan. So yeah, I think on a day-to-day basis, there were evenings where I sat there and thought, oh, the last thing I want to do is go on a 3-hour lecture now. But I had my eyes on the prize. And it's interesting, actually, recently I've been listening to an audiobook that really focuses on that thing of people now are very much focused on short-term gratification. So they want a quick high. You know, they want to look at something on social media, it gives them a little buzz, and that's why people sit and scroll social media. And they said you've got to focus on the long-term high because it feels so much better. So yeah, you might have to go through a lot more pain points to get there, but the buzz that you'll get at the end, there's nothing like that. And there's no quick fix for that. You've just got to put in the work.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it is a long term. Even for 16, 17 months, that's still a long term for the amount of hours you put in for that period. It's a long term reward effort it's a long term reward for that effort for sure. Yeah, but it's so true. This, like, I point to my plaque all the time, and my degree I had, like, it's really empowering that we've got to that, we've achieved these things, you've got to the end of it and you've actually finished what you started. I love knowing that I finished, and that's one of the things I say to students all the time, like, I want you to keep going because I want you to finish what you started for a reason, so don't quit, don't give up, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And it's easy to get distracted or think, oh, you know, it's not important, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. Although I say that having not completed all of the studies that I've started, so I would say that that's not always the case. I think sometimes your goals can realign and you need to make sure that you're doing what's right for you personally and not doing anything for other people.
That's very important. I just want to go back to your planning stage. So did you use any form of revision plan to make sure outside of the lectures you were keeping on track?
Yeah, so I would put things into my diary, so I would know which exams I had and when I was sitting them, and then I would work out in the run up to there what hours I needed to dedicate. The trouble for me is I am a little bit stubborn. So if I was sitting, obviously I would be doing the lectures of 2 different units at the same time, but if one of those exams fell before the other, my focus would tend to be on that first exam, which isn't necessarily a good study tip, but I would be focused in on that earlier exam first, get that done, sit that, and then it's almost like your brain goes, oh, I can forget all that now. That's all gone. I've left room for some new knowledge. And then I would cram for the second exam, where I might only have a week or 2 in between them, depending how the sittings usually are quite tight together. So I think it was usually about a week that would be between them. So then I would just try and absorb as much as I could on the second unit. So yeah, it was tricky.
But you had gone through the study phase of it equally, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, balancing my time between the two. And obviously there would always be units that you had a greater affinity with. That's the same, you know, with accountancy, we're not all fantastic at every element of accountancy. There are bits that you find harder than others. So if there was a unit where I was particularly struggling, then there I would adjust my timetable during the week so that I had more hours to spend on that to make sure that that knowledge was really going in and sticking.
I call any qualification an emotional roller coaster. Obviously, I've been on the CIMA emotional roller coaster, and I've done an interview and talked about my highs and lows. So what would you say your highs and lows have been? Let's start with your highs first.
My highs have been, I mean, every exam pass is an absolute high, you know, when you've worked really, really hard and you've missed out on social occasions and you've neglected all of your friendships and all of those things, and then you get that piece of paper, you get that email through saying that you've passed and, you know, here's your score. That's such an amazing feeling. And I think on the flip side of that is all of those things you have to give up. I think when you're really disciplined and you really want something, then everything else has to kind of get pushed to the side for that time period. And when you're studying a long qualification, you know, when you're doing your chartered exams, you're talking 3-4 years of your life. That's really, really difficult to go through that time constantly saying, oh, I can't come out, or I'll come out but I'll have to leave early, or I can't be at this event. And it's tough, it's hard going.
I don't want to talk about COVID and the pandemic loads, but I'm guessing from again, I shouldn't assume this, but did you have any of your studying during that period, or were you qualified before that?
Yeah, I was already all sorted by then. Okay. So, I say that actually, what I said, didn't I, that I sat some ACCA exams. The last ACCA exam I sat, COVID was a thing by then, and I actually had to wear a mask for the exam, which was fairly unpleasant. But yeah, it didn't have a big impact on my studying journey.
Okay, so let's talk about your ACCA a little bit, because I'm intrigued. And so what was your reason to start your ACCA?
So at that point in my life, I was working in a large firm, and it was almost, I suppose it was almost the done thing. And there was a kind of a hierarchy within the culture, and I think that's the case in a lot of large firms, where people with only AAT qualifications were seen as kind of less successful or less knowledgeable than people who had done all of the chartered exams. So for me, I was very conscious of that, and so decided that I wanted to do those exams, I suppose almost to prove a point, which was a bad decision. That was a bad reason to set off on that journey, because once I'd passed, I think I sat 4, passed them all first time, decent marks. Once I'd done that, I was like, well, yeah, I can do it. I knew I could do it. And then I lost interest because it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the path I wanted to take. And I'd made the decision to do it for all of the wrong reasons. So learned the hard way, but I do know I can do it. I did pass them. So in a way, it was a good thing.
I'm so pleased you were honest and said that, because nobody should do it. I hate that word, but it's so true. You should pick what you want to do. It should be from your decision first. You shouldn't do any of this, especially a chartered qualification that does take 3 to 5 years, guys. If for somebody else, you just can't do it. I just don't think you can do it, and you can't be as motivated. And I feel like the more you own your decision, the more you'll be able to stick to it, and it's the right thing for you. I know I was never going to stop. I was never going to give up, because I wanted this plaque. Some people, I don't think some people around me didn't really mind. And obviously when I was failing, my family and my support system were like, you can, it's okay, you can stop. I was like, no, I absolutely don't want to. I want this plaque. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, is that you're doing it for the right reasons, because if you aren't, then sooner or later, it's not going to work out the way that you want it. And also it eats away at your life. I had an ex-colleague who failed the same exam, I think 5 or 6 times. And it wasn't through incompetency. He's a fantastic accountant, really skilled, really knowledgeable. It was just that one exam that was tripping him up, and you think people just get obsessed over it for the wrong reason. And you just think you've got to make the right decision for your life. And if the right decision for you is to go all the way, I know accountants that have got AAT and ACA, and then they've done the tax exams as well. And that's phenomenal. And I find it so impressive. If that's the journey for you, that's brilliant. But also there's plenty of success to be garnered for not taking that journey. And I'm, proof is in the pudding. I'm proof that that's the case. I have a very successful business. I do all sorts of amazing things. And I'm only AAT qualified.
I mean, I don't want to put a negative on it at all for anybody listening, but my personal opinion is you are qualified though. You are AAT qualified. So if you didn't have that foundation, then I personally not sure you would be having the successes. And sorry if that some people listening don't like that, but it's not the fact that you don't have your ACCA, but you do have a really strong AAT foundation.
Yeah, definitely. It does depend on the path you want to take. And obviously to be in my position where I'm running my own practice, speaking at events, delivering webinars, all of those types of things, people need to see that I'm competent. They need to see that I'm qualified and I understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's definitely important for a lot of different paths that people might choose to take with their career.
If anyone is listening and they're feeling like they're going through their ACCA or CIMA journey, that's where lots of my audience are at right now. And if they are thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not doing it for me, or I really do actually really want to stop, is there any advice you would share, or anything that they could think about?
Yeah, I would say don't give up lightly. It's not a decision to be taken lightly at all. Really stop and have a think about it. But I would think about, what is your end goal? Funnily enough, I spoke about this recently on another interview that I did, that somebody said to me recently, what does Lydia want? And I think that's got to constantly be your driver. What do I want? What are my life goals? We only get one go at life. So you want to do it in the way that's right for you, not anybody else. And if your goal is that you want to run a practice, for example, there's a lot of argument to be had that actually getting out there and getting that experience, learning how to do the accounts, learning how to deal with difficult situations, learning how to create relationships with clients, all of those skills are as important as the qualifications. So if you've realized that qualification isn't right for you, there's absolutely no shame in that whatsoever.
but don't give up lightly.
Yeah, make sure it's the right decision.
Yeah. And like you said, like your colleague, and I coach a lot of resitters, like just because you're resitting, hopefully your colleagues continued if it's the right thing for them, but you might not be failing the exam because you don't know it. It might be an exam technique thing. It might just be a confidence thing. I know some of my students come to me because they just have not a fear, but an anxiety around, oh my God, it's an exam. I can do this normal life, but it's an exam I can't do. So if that's the reason why you want to give up, I would politely say, let's just have a chat, because I don't think that's the reason why you should, again, should, I hate that word, but that the decision to quit or to pause doesn't need to come from just because you can't pass an exam.
No, absolutely not. I think it's like you say, anything like that is learnable. You know, there's new techniques you can learn, you can be coached through any fears. So if it is just down to you don't like sitting exams or you find that a difficult experience, then that's not a reason to quit. I think you just need to align the studies that you're doing, the reason you're doing them, with what your goals are later on, not just plow through studies because that's what everybody does and that's what you thought you should do. So it's having to think about the reasons why behind it. But yeah, exams are tricky for a lot of people. I've never had that problem, to be totally honest. Exams have always been, you know, great for me, even from when I was at school. I don't know why. My brother used to get so annoyed at me because he had to work really, really hard and I was always fine. But I know that it is something that people struggle with, but it's something that you can easily overcome, you know, with a bit of support.
Yeah, for sure. One thing you did say, I've written a few notes, so I'm just looking back. One thing you said earlier in your revision journey at the start was that you had some really great mentors or teachers. So what did that mean for you, and how do you think that has helped you so far in your career?
Yeah, so I think I was really lucky in the first couple of roles that I had amazing, I hate the word boss, but manager, boss, whatever you want to call it. I had amazing role models, people that took the time to guide me and teach me and have patience with me. I'm finding it now as somebody employing staff, it's like a whole new skill set to learn. And I'm grateful that those people had those skills and were able to kind of have that patience with me and coach me and build me up. And that really helped me to have the background knowledge, kind of the insider knowledge of how things work in the real world, that then you can put into your studies and understand, oh, okay, well, this is why it says this and this is why we do this. So that was really, really helpful. And I think any accountancy qualification, no matter what level, would be almost impossible to do without some sort of experience running alongside it.
Yeah, as well as just the practical experience to get it signed off. That's very important. You know, your exams are just half of it.
Mm-hmm.
The questions I'm asking everybody, because I think it's a really important part of the journey from start to finish, is when you first started, obviously you've talked about some of your ambitions and goals, but when you first started, what opportunities did you think would come from being AAT qualified?
Yeah, I thought that once I was qualified, I would have the option of applying for jobs that weren't available to me at that point. I thought it would just give me kind of more respect, that people would be more confident in the fact that I knew what I was doing and what I was talking about. It's interesting with accountancy that often the people employing you don't have any accountancy knowledge. They have no clue what they're talking about. So they can't ask you any questions at interview that give them any indication of your ability. So without the qualification, they haven't really got a lot to go off. And that's something that I found was the people that were asking me interview questions knew so little. It's quite scary sometimes. So having that piece of paper to back it up gives them the peace of mind when there's not another way really for them to reassure themselves.
I totally agree sometimes, yeah. Unless you're being interviewed by like a finance manager as your boss, I would say I've had some funny stories. I say I've done month end, I've done this and this, and they're like, oh, you've done accruals and prepayments. I'm like, yes, accruals and prepayments is like less than 5% of month end, guys, but yes, I've done that. Yeah, smile and nod.
They're feeling really chuffed that they've known to ask about that.
Yeah. It's like, yes, if I've done month end, accruals and prepayments is just this basic thing I've done. Yeah. It's funny. And that's what you thought at the start. So once you've been qualified, what opportunities and rewards have come for you so far?
Well, it's really opened up so much more opportunity than I'd considered at the time. I think at the time I never imagined that I would end up running my own business. It hadn't even really occurred to me at that point, but obviously now here I am. And that's all down to the AAT. You know, the support from them has been amazing. They do my license, they do all my anti-money laundering. And they've been a big part of my journey. So I think having that qualification has really changed my life. You know, not to be too dramatic about it, but it has. This starting the business has been the best thing I've ever done, bar my children, obviously. And yeah, it's just been an amazing journey. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that without that qualification.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people I've asked, and for me, for sure, and like you just said, look, the opportunities that have actually come from us, I didn't even know that would have come. So I qualified 9 years ago, and the things that have happened, I didn't know that would happen either. So you don't know until you've got this one thing out of the way, and then you can see, and you've just opened to lots more.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I have recently happened to me that I'm so over the moon about is that I'm going to start doing some teaching. So I already help with some webinars that are run by a company called Boost Lancashire. So they train business people when they're setting up how to do their bookkeeping and accounts. So I've been doing some webinars for them, but now I'm also working with the local college doing some actual teaching. Now, because I don't have a degree, teaching was something that I ruled out straight away, because we all know to work in a school, you have to have a degree. There's no two ways about it. But now actually I'm at a point in my life where I'm so knowledgeable in a subject that I can teach it to other people without the need for that degree. And that's something that's like meant so much to me. It's really been a, you know, obviously I make enough money out of my business. I don't need to go and teach. I'm doing that purely because it's something that I'm really passionate about, that I really want to do, and that I thought for so many years that I would never be able to do.
Congratulations. That sounds so exciting as well. Like, so
exciting.
And you're giving back like your mentors gave it to you, for sure.
Yeah, and I think I'm in a really exciting position, because when I'm teaching people about accounts, I live and breathe it every day. So I'm able to give them that real first-hand knowledge that not necessarily all tutors have. You know, they're quite often in a classroom full time. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm so happy.
Oh, we've got a true revision geek with us today. Yes. It is exciting, and you'll make a difference so much more than you realize and stuff as well. I know that a lot of people watch me on LinkedIn in secret. You're like, you know, behind the scenes. I don't even hear about them, but we make a difference on a daily basis, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the other things I always say is, if we're all telling the absolute truth, accountancy isn't necessarily that rewarding as a career. You know, when you think about, there are nurses out there, there are carers, there are people that just give of themselves all day, every day. What we do is important, it's necessary, but it's not necessarily rewarding. So for me, that teaching side, educating people, whoever they may be, whether they're young people, business owners, whoever, that gives me so much more satisfaction personally. It's just a nice thing to be able to do.
It is a lovely thing. You'll have so many rewards from that. Yeah, just that like core, like feeling good.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, or you'll be like, I don't like it, no, it's not for me. Great. So the question I'm asking everybody, because I give a lot of revision tips for my audience, is for any qualifying accountants listening, what is your number one revision tip?
I think my number one revision tip is just to find the method of study that works best for you. When I used to sit and listen to or watch my online lectures, quite often while I was watching, I would be fiddling with Rubik's Cube or messing around on my phone playing like a really basic game. And I don't know why I did that. I just knew that it helped me to absorb what I was hearing. And years later, I was having a conversation with my stepmom, and she said, no, that's a genuine way that some people learn. They have to be busy with like the front of the brain, so that the back of the brain, I don't really know a lot about the brain, but so that whatever part of the brain it is can absorb the information. It's something to do with how you learn. So I had accidentally found the way that worked for me, but most people would look at that and think, well, she's not even listening, she's playing a game at the same time. So I think it's really important to identify how you best learn. You know, some people need to write it down, don't they, and highlight it and read back over it. Some people need to hear it, but whatever works for you, that's the important thing. You don't have to copy everybody else.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that as well. Don't copy anybody, find your way and stick to your way. And remember, you have lots of different senses: eyes, ears, mouth, hands, yeah,
definitely. And it's it's been scientifically proven now, hasn't it, that there's all these different types of learners. And I think it doesn't really, you don't ever really find out what kind of learner you are at school. Nobody ever asks you. So I think you need to go and figure that out, whether you seek out an online quiz you can do, or you just sit and think, actually, what works best for me. As I say, I found mine by accident, but I think without doing that, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think I'd have got through the exams as quickly as I did.
Yeah, there's a concentration level that is needed to absorb the information, and then there's this motivation level to keep going, or motivational skill to keep going. And I feel like there's a commitment and a dedication that we need to give it. I mean, when you first started, you might not have known it would only have taken you 16 months. But when we first start, we don't know. I mean, my CIMA journey took me 6 years, so I would never have guessed that. So we need this skill to be committed for that length of time. I know my thing's a little paperclip, but I like trying the Rubik's Cube idea. I have a paperclip or a pen or something in my hand all the time. And it is scientifically proven. We'll have to find some science and put it out there. We will, it's true. And again, it's like being empowered by your learning style, like being empowered because you want to do this, and then take it a step more to what works for me. How do I do this? We've chosen to do this extra qualification. Nobody's made us. So that's a great tip. Thank you so much.
No problem. I'll give you one more, a freebie, which I've learned the very, very hard way, is do not think you can leave everything till the last minute, because you can with some things, but the harder these exams get and the further into the qualifications you get, there's absolutely no way. There's just too broad of a spectrum of content. And because they can examine you on anything and you've got no idea of where to focus your energy, you do need to spread your time out and learn over the weeks before your exam, not just the last couple of days.
No, nobody comes in my world. I recommend a 30-day revision phase on purpose, to practice in smart ways, so that you can grow your knowledge base and your confidence, because there is a lot to learn at the more levels you go as well. Yes. Thank you for that freebie.
No problem.
But thank you so much for being here, Lydia. It's been super great to have you in my revision world and interview you. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I don't never know how to end these things, but yeah.
Bye.